Dirt Rally.
Right.
Brett, it's not Dirt 4.
Is it not?
No.
Oh.
They've been teasing that Dirt 4 for ages, right?
Months.
Months or years. I've lost count now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dirt Rally, it's not a spin-off.
Right.
It is the continuation of Dirt. It is the next core entry, essentially. But it's not like Dirt 3. It's not like Dirt 2. It's not got the arcadey type handling of those games.
Right.
It is a proper simulator. And we're not even talking like Gran Turismo levels of simulator. We are talking like flight simulator.
Jesus.
It's like flight simulator, but in the world of rally. Imagine that. And it's great. People want that. But it's so difficult. So difficult. One of the first things that Codemasters said to me was, don't play this how you would play Dirt 3. And of course, I didn't listen to them.
Yeah,
and I
of course.
came off on the first turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. There's so much to talk about with this game because it's not Dirt 4 and because of the way that they're releasing it. It's a Steam Early Access game. It's only on PC, at least for the time being.
Right.
They haven't ruled out a console release, but to be honest, I'd be surprised if it ever comes to console.
They mentioned how much it will cost on Early Access.
Yeah, it's $24.99. That price might go up. So, yeah, so the idea is $24.99, you get the launch package, which is 3 environments. I've written them down.
That's quite a lot for an Early Access game.
Yeah, it's Wales, Monte Carlo, and another location, I can't remember. 32 stages across those, I think. And then over time, they're going to build on it. They're going to roll out free content. Now, it is free to those who buy it during the Early Access stage.
Right, I see.
They're very keen to point out that there's not any microtransactions. There's no premium content at the moment planned.
For those who buy the Early Access, though,
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes. And there's Pikes Peak coming next month, and in June there's something else. There's another German location.
Right.
So they've got plans for what they want to do, but another key part is they want to listen to the feedback. It's a weird one because it's not typically what you'd think of an early access game. It's not a game that feels early in development. It feels like quite a well-polished game that doesn't have much content to it at the moment, but will be expanded upon. That's.
But what is there is pretty. It's not like what's in the game is early build. It is fully fledged.
Yeah,
It looks.
It feels like quality.
Right.
The issue I have, and one of the issues that I think is going to be the biggest problem is it's not Dirt 4, and people want. It doesn't have the same production values of a typical Dirt game. It almost feels like it feels like a smaller, almost like a fan-built project of what they'd want a Dirt game to be.
Yeah, because one of the things that, like you mentioned, is that you say people want this. I think people will be watching the footage as they listen to this and see how difficult it is to keep that car on the track.
Now, bear in mind, that's not me playing. That's one of Codemasters' best drivers, and they're still cocking up in places.
Yeah.
When I say it's hard, it is punishing.
Yeah.
Really difficult. One of the things they said to me was, you need to learn how to drive a rally car to be competent at Dirt Rally. And there's going to be people that love the idea of that. There's also going to be a lot of people that think, oh, I don't know.
This is what I'm thinking, though, because there will be people who love the idea of thinking, if I can play this game, I can drive a rally car. But how many people have access to rally cars?
Well, that's the thing. Like,
for this game to be successful, that's such a small market to be targeting.
Gran Turismo, you didn't need to learn how to drive a car to play Gran Turismo.
No.
And, it's not as... You don't need to learn the clutch and all that. There are these automatic things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of settings you can tweak.
But there's very few assists. They've said that the only assists that are available at launch are those that you'd find in a standard car, like ABS and stuff like that. There's not like steering assists where it guides you across the track and things like that. It doesn't feel like Dirt 3 or Dirt 2 or anything like that at all. It feels completely different. And they say they've rebuilt the handling from the ground up, and you can feel that, It does feel like a real car. And I was given a go on the D-Box, which is like, it's almost like a mini arcade machine where the seat moves, essentially, and it reacts to what's going on. You know what? They've done an amazing job in the handling. It does feel a lot like driving a car. And because I was struggling, when I first sat down to play it, I really couldn't do it, even with the steering wheel set that they gave me originally. But suddenly I was thrown into this D-Box, and it felt like I was driving a car, and I was playing it. I was thinking about playing it, about how I would actually drive in real life.
Right, I
and
see.
it changed it for me then. And there's going to be very few people that have access to that kind of setup, obviously. But when it comes to the handling and the physics, they've done a top job. And it's a shame, I think, that there are other flaws with it.
Yeah.
And that is visually.
Yes, what I was going to mention is that people also will be watching this footage and thinking about how the game looks.
Yeah. I think this is one of the biggest shames in that I'm one of those guys that's been sitting there waiting for a big next-gen Dirt game.
Yeah.
I wanted to play Dirt on PS4 and Xbox One. I wanted those big production values, those big like fireworks and all that excitement of Dirt 3 on next-gen. This doesn't have it. So the game is built on the last-gen Codemasters engine, last-gen version of it. So it looks like a last-gen PC game, essentially. It's not running on the next-gen Ego engine that they're using for F1 2015.
And that's a real shame, because I recently got to see F1 2015 on... It was running on a PC, and although it was an early build and had some janks and it was a bit off, but you could see how I was so impressed by what they could do with that engine, especially in wet weather on a night circuit. And it looked really nice. And again, the problem was it was an early build, so there were moments where it sort of fell apart. So, but you could see the potential there. And if they could have applied that to, like you say, a rally game, it could have looked really nice with the muddy circuits and the trees all running past you. It could have looked really nice. But the fact that that can't have come across is just a shame.
It looks good enough, but that's not praise in particular.
Yeah, it is passable, but is that good enough? It looks good enough for the game, but is that good enough for the fans, you know?
It feels like a continuation of what Codemasters started a couple of years back with, I think they learnt a lot from Grid 2.
Right.
Where Grid 2 was perhaps not what a lot of people would have wanted. It was quite arcadey. I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was amazing, but I thought it was okay. And then I think they learnt then for Grid Autosport, actually, our most vocal fans want that sort of simulator type feel to their game.
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately, Grid Autosport didn't sell as well as they hoped, I don't think, because it was the time it launched, it was a last gen game.
Yeah.
When, next gen had been out for a while.
Yeah.
And I get the impression with this one, it is a continuation of going down that simulation road, but also they're prepared to listen to what people want. And if further down the line people want those sort of console-based, accessible type modes, they will add them in.
And maybe that is the benefit of being an early access game, is they are malleable in that regard. They've got the time to listen and tweak and apply. They're not releasing as a 1.0 game. They're not saying, here's what it is, and everything that you do say we'll have to patch and it will be minor tweaks. Whereas this one, they can take information that the core, because it will be the core audience who picked this game up day one as the early access game, and they can take that information wholesale and try their best to put that feedback into whatever the final product may be as well.
It's a really interesting model. I have my doubts about it.
Yeah.
I think the amount of time we've had since a Dirt game, and for them to now launch a Dirt game that is not complete, that is still early, that looks the way it does, isn't on a new engine.
Yeah.
I think that potentially is open to a bit of criticism.
Of course, yeah.
But at the same time, there's been a lot of change at Codemasters. Maybe this was the only way that they could really put a game like this out there.
Yeah, it's the only way they could sort of get the okay from people to get this Dirt game.
And that's the thing, because this, like you say, it may be quite niche, this simulation type stuff. The people that are going to like it, they're going to love it.
Yeah.
But how many of those people are there compared to the mainstream Dirt 3 type audience?
Yeah.
And I imagine that to get a game out there, they couldn't have put down the millions. They couldn't have risked that millions and millions worth of pounds worth of investment to put into the big budget game that does what this does.
Yeah.
And so I'm in two minds about the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think, like, for me, when it comes to racing games, I like sim games, but not too sim in that regard. I always tweak the settings and stuff. And when it comes to Dirt, I've always been a casual fan. Dirt 3 was great because it was bonkers. It was that Gymkhana type mental, driving around all the streets, hitting signs, doing these crazy jumps, and I really enjoyed that. But hearing this, it's put me off the idea, because there's a very steep learning curve. I just want to go in, zip round dirt tracks, be on the very edge of my seat, the very edge of control, but have the game help me rein it back in. So it doesn't sound like my kind of game, but if there is that audience, I don't know how big it is, if that audience is big enough to sustain that early access model and £25 and make that a success for them, then they've clearly not done this on a limb. They've done their research, and they think that if this price game type is enough to make a successful business model, then they're going to do it. And I don't know about you, but it's not for me. And like you say, you're in two minds about it. And I guess we'll see what happens in the coming months when it releases.
Yeah, I hope they do a Dirt 4. I don't know if they are or if they aren't. But part of me does, at the same time, wonder if it should. Dirt 3 was amazing.
It was, yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
And I wish they could have continued that into a next-gen game. And that's one of the reasons why I say I don't think this will ever come to console. And if it does, I think it will be a budget, digital-only type release. I don't think it has And to be honest, because of the engine it runs on, I don't think it perhaps ever will have the production values of what is expected of a current gen
to get up
game, at least at full price.
Have
Box
they
release.
then announced a release date for it?
It's out right now.
It's out now?
You can play it right now.
Let's go have a look. What are we doing? Let's go and see.
All that stuff that you're watching right now, that could be you. I mean, it won't be, because you'll be off the side of the road and your car will be upside down right now.
I'll tell you what, Dave. Let's end this recording and let's go drive into some trees.
Yeah.
All right then.
Cool.
Let's go do it.
Bye.
Right, bye.
Michael, are you going to tell the boys and girls to subscribe?
I was working up to the impatient little gat.